If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Good morning, San Diego. Happy Saturday. I'm Mark Powell.
And I'm Frank Powell.
And we're the Powell brothers. Thank you for tuning in today. We have a very interesting and engaging show. Today we're going to be talking about boundaries, those boundaries that refer to real estate, not personal boundaries, and encroachments. An encroachment is something that we will go into a lot of detail. Now, at this point, Frank?
Well, I'd like to introduce Comedy Heights producer, Maria. Let me do that again.
Okay, Frank's going to try that again.
Let me put down.
Everybody, we've been rehearsing.
Let me put down my tequila.
We've been rehearsing this for 17 hours.
I have a list.
Let's try it again.
Comedy Heights producer.
How much am I getting paid for this?
Maria Herman. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about slandering Maria. Yeah.
That is literally the best introduction
my
I've
gosh.
had all year long. That's the best. Thank you.
San Diego's favorite.
Great to be here.
Good to have you here. And San Diego's favorite Godfather comedian, Tony Calabrese.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes.
Welcome, Tony. Welcome, Maria. So let's talk about these boundaries and encroachments. Those do sound like personal things you'd do in a social studies
Well,
class.
boundaries are extremely important because when you purchase a house, what you're actually purchasing is called a bundle of rights. It's a stack of papers, and sometimes there are some graphs that determine where your property lines are, and those are your boundaries. Frank's going to go into a lot more detail on boundaries and how important boundaries are.
Well, there's areas that you buy if you're buying acreage versus a 6,000 square foot lot in a residential area, where the boundaries are easier to figure out when your neighbor has a fence in between your property lines and you're right next door. But what if you have 4 or 5 acres? Where are the boundary lines? What if it all looks the same? The topography is hilly or has cactus here in Southern California, a lot of desert scenes. Where are the boundaries? And these are the things that you have to make sure you know with markers and getting them done in case you want to figure out what you're going to do with your property. And then that goes right to encroachments. If you don't know your boundaries, you could be encroaching on another person's property.
So Frank, what I understand is if we're not living in a rural area where we have a bunch of acreages and trees and hills and stuff, where do you typically find your boundary lines if you're living in the city?
Typically, it's a fence. Right?
It's
typically a fence in between you and your neighbors, and you just automatically assume that's your boundary line. But sometimes,
I have found that with some neighbors, a fence isn't enough of a boundary. Do you have that problem?
Oh, that's all. Well, a lot of real estate.
That's why you have encroachment. That's a 5-yard penalty. We take 5 yards of their acreage away every time.
Well, in San Diego, most of the neighborhoods will have a stamp on the concrete. And what it looks like a nickel with a nail through it that's hammered into the sidewalk.
Right.
So if you find that piece of metal that's slammed in the concrete, you kind of can get an idea where your boundary is, and anything to whatever. If you're standing in front of it, anything to the left of it is your property, or anything to the right of it is your property, depending on where you're looking for this stamp in the concrete. However, what happens if somebody doesn't notice that stamp and your neighbor builds a fence and that fence is just a little bit on your property?
I have an accident. I mean, sorry.
The thing is, can you just tear the fence down and say, well, you know what? You came over on my property 4 inches or 6 inches, however many inches it is. Can you just tear down the fence? Do you know the answer, Frank?
I do. I want to hear what Maria.
Well, I'm just I feel totally encroached upon at 4 inches. So,
Well,
well, now that it's on my property line, for example,
Yes.
I go to the neighbor and we have the discussion. I talk about, you're 4 inches on my side. So can I build on his fence or something? I mean, is that allowed? Now that you came over here, I'm going to attach something to it, like a playhouse or something. I mean, I don't know. Is it mine now?
The first thing you always want to do
is what?
is talk to the neighbor, like Maria says, and try and solve it.
Yeah, you got to talk to them.
Yeah.
You know, how much are you going to pay to have your fence on my side of the property? Because right on that little metal stamp in the concrete, it says, "Get off my lawn."
Right, 'cause that's what
So
it's.
there's
Guys.
Get off. So really, what happens in that situation is nothing really.
Well, nothing unless you make it an issue. There's only an issue when you want that 4 inches back. So let's say you're building I'll give you a good example in today's market. Let's say you're building a granny flat. Mm-hmm. The granny flat, if it's less than 500 square feet, 499 square feet or less, can now be built in some areas right on the property line. So that 4 inches would mean something to you if you build it right on the property line. So you'd probably want that 4 inches back.
But when you do build something, there's a certain number of feet that you can't build towards that property line. Correct?
Correct, but that's if you're going. That's why the exception is 499 square foot or above. If it's more than that, then it's typically a 3 to 5 foot setback. It's called the setback from the property line where you can build a structure.
But is that with every single property in San Diego County? Because there's all these different cities. Do they have different ordinances for?
It typically goes across, but there are variations and exceptions and towards a lot of different municipalities. So you got to check. You got to check with your building codes. A general contractor in that area would know that, but you want to definitely verify it.
but legally you could tear the fence down.
No, legally you could take them to court, small claims court, and have it. But if you just go tear fences down,
you can't tear it down. I can tell you a story once.
You're destructing their property, and that could get you in trouble.
We were selling a house that had some trees on our property, but the trees were growing over on the neighbor's property. So he said those trees were encroaching. It wasn't our house. It was a house that we were selling, and it was out in the rural areas of San Diego. One day we come back, and this neighbor came on our side of the fence, or the seller's side of the fence, and cut the trees down. Is that against a lot of them? And
yes,
Maria knows about that.
And drop the trees on our side of the property.
Oh,
So you show up and you see all these trees laying there, and you're like,
well, that's why they have real estate attorneys.
that's exactly
Because
why.
that goes directly to court. You cannot go on another person's property and do anything.
No.
You got to go through the court system.
Well,
Yeah.
you could always
Tony,
call-
you got that, right?
There's different ways of getting around things.
Yeah. We
Yes.
could call
I mean,
Tony, and he'll
we can
go
call
knock
Tony.
on their
Oh,
door.
it's a veto, that
There's
kind
something else that's pretty interesting. It's called a zero lot line. A zero lot line. And you'll hear that term done sometimes in the downtown area of San Diego. And what that is where the garage and the property line are right on top of each other, or the structure is right on top. Like the buildings in downtown San Diego, if you look at them, they're right next to each other. So you can't walk in between them. So they call that a zero lot line. And you'll see homes called row homes where they look like condos. It's a ROW, a row home. And there's literally like a
3-inch
gap in between the properties. That's what you refer to as a zero lot line. So if you
But the
bash,
facade makes it look like it's one house or a duplex.
yeah, they'll put like
but there actually is space in between the two walls.
the zero lot line.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at purchasing a house, and remember, if you are thinking about purchasing a house, you should call what's called the Powell Brothers. You can find us online at powellbrothersrealty.com. And if we can't determine where your property line is, there are people we can call.
One of them's called a surveyor. So the best thing to do if you don't know where your boundaries are or your lines are, you can hire this guy. He's called a surveyor, and they come in and they do they GPS your house, and they get the exact lines of your boundaries, and they can see whether or not your neighbor has or has not encroached. But also what you could find out is that you're encroaching on their property line.
Right.
So you can find out that you build a fence, and a fence is much easier to tear down. Tony, we're talking about tearing down the fence, but what if it's a block wall? What if the guy has a retaining wall and he put a huge foundation to hold that wall, and now you have what's more like called a structure. A cement with steel and a boundary like that would be more of a structure. It'd be like tearing apart a living room. So that's when you get into just tear down the fence and scoot it over. It's not that easy. Sometimes you'll have a wall going in between the houses, and then you got the problem of, hey, can you scoot over 4 inches? It's not as easy.
Okay, so let's bring it to things that everybody faces on a regular basis. All right, I'm going to give you a scenario. What if your neighbor's trees are growing over on your property and they keep dropping leaves on your property?
I got a better one. What if your neighbors have a fruit tree and it's dropping fruits on your side? Can you pick those fruits? Are they yours?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We got
Absolutely.
absolutely. We got
What do we got?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're mine.
Yeah. If they come on your property, you can pick them.
Yep.
I don't.
Oh.
Well, I don't
What do
know.
you
What if the fruits didn't fall off the tree yet? What if they're still on the tree? Can you reach up there and snip them off?
Sure.
Those?
I would say yes.
Yes.
Sure, they're
Especially if
hanging
they're
on your
avocados.
side.
Not only-
Avocados are very different, Tony.
Yeah,
No, seriously, avocados.
because they're protected, federal protection.
Yeah,
over
it's a
fruit.
felony to steal an avocado.
What?
It's a felony to steal an avocado. Remember, we
What
almost got arrested for
Why?
selling avocados.
Yeah.
We were kids, teenagers. No, seriously, we were teenagers, and I had a friend. She said to me, "I have a bunch of avocados at my aunt's house. Would you like some?" So Frank and I went to the house, and there were literally hundreds of avocados, and it was when avocados were like $5 a piece. They were very rare for whatever reason, and we stood on the side of the road with these avocados. We're teenagers,
Yeah.
and we're selling them, and the police stopped us, and they kind of shook us down a bit. You
Yeah,
know,
we thought they were kidding.
they said you're
Like, dude,
you know,
these
where'd you
are
get those avocados? I said I got them, out there in Escondido, and from my friend's house. Yeah, right. And seriously, we had to call our parents. I was nervous.
It was unbelievable.
Frank tried to run.
It's-
What,
yeah.
what if you
Remember?
wait a minute.
Frank was going to
What
run.
if you wait? What if you'd taken the avocado and you'd made guacamole and tried to sell that? Would that have been allowed?
That's
Oh,
I mean, is
good
that-
one.
I'm not sure,
There's
but I
always
can
a
tell
way
you,
around the law.
You should have seen the look on Frank's face when the police came up. He was horrified, and he was really, he goes, "I'm going to run." I go, "Where are you going?" It's a sidewalk. We can't go anywhere. But we did not get arrested because we had the avocados legally. However, they said, "Do you have a permit to sell these?"
Yeah. Yeah. We
No,
found
serious. We go, "No, we don't. We're like 15. We don't have a permit. We're just trying to make some money."
Most guys get busted for selling a coat or a TV that fell off the back of a truck.
Right.
Right.
No.
You can be less
But no,
trouble
the Powell
selling.
brothers get busted for
Right.
selling avocados.
Selling avocados.
You guys are hard.
Without an avocado license.
Yeah. What did you sell? A bag of weed? What did you sell?
Avocados
2
from
avocados.
Yeah, we
Mexico.
sold some avocados, and that. Now, this is another thing. What if a person is growing marijuana on their property, and the marijuana leaves are coming over onto your side of the property? Can you take those? And can you legally grow marijuana on your property?
You won't remember if you did, so it's not that big.
I don't know, dude.
That's a part.
I don't know.
Just ask them. Probably share.
I don't know. What is the answer to that question?
I don't
Well,
know.
the answer, that's a good question. I know you can grow now. You can grow up to a certain amount of bushes or trees. Or
You
whatever.
can actually grow marijuana in your backyard now.
Unbelievable.
This is the craziest thing.
Why of all the things you would
You get
grow in
busted
your
for
backyard,
avocados.
Why wouldn't you be careful about where the marijuana's going and growing? I imagine you'd be kind of careful about it not running over into someone else's yard.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a story.
Yeah.
When I lived in Ocean Beach, Frank, you remember this. The guy next door was selling marijuana. I believed he was because he had constant traffic, and one day I come home and some friends come over and they go, "Hey, Mark, why are you growing all that marijuana on the side of your house?" I'm like, "What marijuana?" And sure enough, on the side of the apartment that I lived in, it was just a 3-unit apartment. There were, I don't know how many plants growing there. So what the guy was doing was he was cleaning this marijuana and throwing the seeds out just throw them out the window. And sure enough, because it's a weed, a lot of this stuff was growing. So You had to get.
Is that what you told the cops, Mark?
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
No.
That's the
What do you
neighbors.
put in your guacamole?
No, I didn't. No. That was Roundup or whatever. Those things were gone. It's completely gone.
Well, so wait a minute. If someone's marijuana is growing on your property, you could take that and you could give it to your friend, or could you sell it to one other person?
Marijuana is a
Can you
different
do
thing
that?
because marijuana is something.
But wait. If that's okay, but then if you said, well, actually, my marijuana is laced with avocado, which makes it totally illegal because I stole them.
So the thing is
Right?
that this becomes a situation like what I was explaining in Ocean Beach. If these seeds are falling in your yard and you're now all of a sudden you have these things because it is a weed, it could be a problem. So that's another thing that you'd probably have to have a discussion.
Something you should only.
Well, wait a
something
minute.
Only happens
Wait,
in
I got a
Oakland.
feeling seeds are falling all over Ocean Beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, believe me, they were. Hey,
Let's hope it's not Monsanto marijuana. Then you're in trouble.
So the boundaries that we're talking about real estate are very easy. On your title report, you can see how many square foot you have on the assessor's record. It'll tell you. I'll give you what's called a plot map.
plot map is what
And
you
so
need.
the plot map, and once you look at that, you definitely want to make sure that if you're doing anything by the edge of your property line, whether it's a fence, whether it's a structure, whether it's a retaining wall, just to make sure that your boundaries are marked correctly. And
I can tell you, this is a serious thing, boundaries, because there have been situations where neighbors have gotten so upset about boundaries and fences and trees and all this stuff.
Some of our listeners probably know.
They result in
violence.
violence.
Yeah.
Like
Someone's going to jail.
Tony,
today.
you know what I mean?
Well, violence is just another business tool. I mean, it's just,
It works too, doesn't it?
So,
It wouldn't surprise me. Two guys fighting over 4 inches.
Oh God.
but knowing where your boundaries are and knowing about encroachments are important. So if you're going to build anything, if you're going to put up your fence, you really need to make sure that you're abiding by those boundaries that your house is on. You don't want to lose property, and you don't want to take somebody else's property.
And also, when you're buying a house, make sure that you're not encroaching on the neighbor's house. Something you should know before you buy the house.
tell them that story.
So, which story is that?
The story about the neighbor, the realtor who advertised the property wrong.
Oh, that was bad.
Tell what happened.
Well, we had a situation where there was a person that bought a house on the edge of a canyon, and the property line went down to a flat area on the bottom of his property. It was a nice flat area,
But it looked like it was on the other people's property.
but it looked like it was on the other people's
it
property.
was like an L.
Yeah, the other people below had used that property to put a shed. And the reason why they used that property to buy a shed, because when they bought the house, it was advertised as huge canyon lot, able to build a shed in this extra area,
Right.
build whatever you want. So he started building a shed. Well, then the house was sold above. They found out that area down there was actually part of their.
So this was years ago. This was like the house was purchased 10 years ago. The guys had the shed on there for 10 years.
Yes.
And the person who
So
bought
the new house said, hey, man, you're on my property. That property down there that you have a shed on is actually mine, and you got to remove your shed. And the guy goes, I'm not going to remove the shed. The reason why I bought this property is because there was a flyer. And the agent said, buy this property, and you have all this land in the back. So who's at fault?
well, the agent.
Agent,
damn right.
yeah,
The agent was
Yeah.
at fault.
especially
First
because
agent.
Yeah.
especially because that agent created a flyer that said, buy this lot. There's a lot of extra room in the back where you can build whatever you want to build. So they did, and so what happened was the two got in a lawsuit.
No.
They had to sue each other because one of them is not going to move his shed. The other one goes, I want my property. I paid for this. I just bought it, and I want that land back. I want to use it. The guy goes, I ain't budging. I bought this land. That's my land. So you have what you call boundaries and encroachment issues. They settled through the insurance, and I'm not sure what his settlement was, but the guy kept the land.
He had to buy that piece of property from the other guy, from the other
Right.
owner.
He had to- yeah,
and he
he-
paid a lot of money for it. So
What happened to the agent?
the agent called. The agent was just. She was a wreck. It was
She had.
sad.
They have what's called errors and omissions insurance,
Mm-hmm.
so that was settled through their insurance. But it was something that any agent, whether or not you're a veteran or a rookie, can be involved in without realizing it. If you don't double check your property and make sure all the boundaries are intact, an agent can get himself in a lot of trouble.
Well, not us.
Well, we
'Cause
check.
I wouldn't
we're
do that.
paranoid.
We
double check and check.
That's what you do. You check the boundary lines, and it's not a difficult thing to do. It takes five
It's
minutes.
just having to do it.
But you do it. You can't
right.
leave that step out.
The county recorder's office will have those documentations. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that you can go. You can Google your address. You'll get a lot of information on that. It's a lot easier now that we have the internet as opposed to when you have to go walk in before and get all the blueprints out and the plot maps way in the back.
So are you responsible for removing anything you put that's on the?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
if the other guy, even if the other guy wins, you still have to remove it. It's like the person who wants it off doesn't have to remove it.
Yes.
Okay.
We're entering a really unique portion of our show. This is something that is new to our show, and we're going to play right now. Frank, you know what we're going to play?
It's called Stump the Comic.
Stump the Comic. And we have two comics here, Maria Herman and Tony Calabresi,
A professional
comedians,
I don't know if we
and
can
we
stump
are
them.
going to try and stump them.
All right.
Frank, can I try and stump them?
You can try and stump it. And just for listeners, they don't know what's coming.
They
right?
don't know what's coming.
No, we didn't give them the issues.
They have no idea. Okay, ready?
All right.
It's gonna
All
be
right, just
crazy.
steady how you wave that stumpy
Are you going
thing,
first,
okay?
Maria?
Okay.
No, I'll let
Are you
Maria go.
ready?
I'll let Maria go
I
first.
don't know.
Okay, Maria, you get you.
I mean, we'll just jump in. You're gonna give us the same thing, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Yeah,
Here it is.
let's
Okay, please
get-
tell me what an unlawful detainer is.
Oh, that's a really bad Tinder date. No?
No. Unlawful detainer. What is an unlawful detainer?
That kind of sounds like it sounds like detention or summer school or something. Like, how do they have the right? What?
How do they have the right to put me in this room?
I don't know. Sometimes I have Invisalign that I'm wearing, and sometimes I feel like this is an unlawful detainer.
Oh God.
That's an unlawful retainer.
An awful retainer.
That's when Tony
That's a totally
gets.
different
Unlawful
thing in real
detainer.
estate.
Is that lunch with my cousin Vito Mangiapane? You can never get out of that when you're with that guy.
When Tony finds out someone encroached on his property and he has them in the back, hogtied, that's an unlawful detainer.
This is okay. There's two words, unlawful and detainer, but they mean one thing in legal terms. Frank, do you know what an unlawful detainer is? Actually, what is it?
Well, that's staying in a property that you haven't paid rent on, and you're staying there without giving money, and you're basically squatting.
It's just squatting.
Or it could be like you haven't paid in 2 months. We have to get an eviction going out, and when you do go for the eviction, that's a lawsuit. Technically, an eviction through the courts is a lawsuit, and the lawsuit is called an unlawful detainer.
Correct. So when you sue somebody for being in your house without the legal right to do so, you file an unlawful detainer. Typically, that's done through a real estate attorney or an eviction attorney. And if the person doesn't move after that, it becomes a formal eviction. And a formal eviction can get kind of nasty because that means that they're going to call the sheriff. And the sheriff will come over and actually throw you out of the house.
Mark, do you need a real estate attorney to file for an unlawful detainer if you're a landlord? Or can you go in there and do it yourself?
Well, you can probably file the paperwork yourself, but I would advise against that.
Paperwork.
No.
What paperwork?
So, we've had these problems here with people squatting in houses. So there may be a vacant house.
When you say squatting, I mean squatting's as simple as
Well, they're not going.
they gave a deposit, they're paying, and now they're called squatter, but they're not really.
I
mean, I
just
guess
saw one in the news where they got some guy that was living in a house somewhere in North County, and he came out screaming that he'd be back. They took him to jail. He'd been staying on that property. I forget what.
Well, what they do is
Oh, my gosh.
they'll look up. They'll go. People will go buy homes if they see a sign, a house is for sale, and no one's there. They just move in.
Well, I think the guy died, and he moved into a guy's house that died.
Yeah, that did happen. That was on the news. That was recently on the news.
There's a lot of people that do unjust things. They'll go in there and they'll feel if they've been there long enough, they get to stay. So are we going to play? Let's take a commercial break, okay? And let's come back and we're going to play Stump the Comic
All
with
right.
one more thing.
One more Stump
How
the
about
Comic. That sounds like a plan.
Okay, listeners, we'll be right back. Just a couple announcements, and we'll return with more of My Funny House with the Powell Brothers.
Looking for a home loan but not sure who to trust? Buddy Green at Bay Equity Home Loans has been helping clients with their purchases, refinances, and reverse mortgages for over 35 years. Buddy's reviews agree he's knowledgeable, responsive, reliable, and a pleasure to work with. Buddy will work to get you the best customized loan for your personal situation. Call Buddy at 858-449-1961. That's 858-449-1961. Work with a professional. Call Buddy today.
And MLS ID 240200.
Hey, we're back. Thank you for staying tuned in. We were playing Stump the Comic, and we're going to go on to our next term for Stump the Comic, and it is a quit claim deed. What is a quit claim deed? Maria?
A quit claim deed sounds like Santa's not coming for Christmas. I mean, it sounds like something from the Gold Rush. It's you're gonna quit my claim deed.
Tony?
Sounds like Frank's first divorce to me.
Oh, very close.
Yeah, there's something like that.
Oh,
Yes.
ouch.
Or my wedding anniversary, one of those.
It's. I mean, if you think about the terms, quit claim deed. Frank, you filled one of those out though.
What are you saying, Frank, in the divorce stuff?
Frank?
What about you? Oh, you never owned a house.
No, I do own a house.
Never mind.
No.
No, I'm just
What is a
kidding.
quit claim deed?
Well, it's when you say you're going to take a person, you're going to get off the deed. You're going to quit.
Yes.
I'm out of here. You can have it. I'm signing it over to you. Bye-bye. I've had enough. Adios.
So, for example, you're
I
in
was
a
right.
You're
Yeah,
all
you're
right.
right.
So you're in a divorce. Somebody is going.
It doesn't have to be a divorce.
No, it doesn't.
No, it could be any partnership. It could be anything. It could be 5 people owning one house, and you want to get off that deed.
Yeah, you make them an offer they can't refuse.
But give them some-
sometimes you file a quit claim deed, even if you were never on the deed, till you have no claims to it in the future. So let's say 2 people were in a divorce, and the husband or wife are going to purchase another property. They may have that person sign a quit claim deed saying, "I have no claim to this new property that they're buying. That I have no interest in it." But the funny thing,
Why would you need to do that?
What's
I mean, if they're not on it and they have no interest in it.
okay, because here's what will happen. Sometimes in situations where 2 people are on a deed together, and they come to a resolution, and another person buys out the other person, and they have to sign that deed
Right.
saying, "I have no more interest in the property."
You said they're not even on it. They would, sometimes they're
Because
not even on it.
sometimes people will make a claim later on and say, "Well, that was really,
Oh, got it.
that was really, I was involved in that, and I gave them some money. They're using some of these."
I'll give an
proceeds."
example. You have a person
wait?
that
I know what that is. I know what that's called.
What?
That's called a quit claim dud.
There you go.
No.
pretty close. Also, if you're going to buy a house, like let's say for a stepchild, and you don't want it part of your current marriage, you could say, "Hey, I'm buying this house with my son, and we need you to have a quit claim deed, no deed attached to it."
Yes, and they're very, very commonly used. That they'll come up all the time where somebody will go, "We have to sign this quit claim deed."
And it's typically, you pay me enough money, I'll sign it over.
That's correct.
It's the negotiations.
Now remember, the one thing that people may not understand, that you can be in a divorce situation, and one or the other party can do a quit claim deed, but that doesn't relinquish them from the mortgage.
Well, that's where people make the big mistake. What they do is they say, "Okay, fine, you get the house," but what happens is that they're still attached to being responsible to the mortgage. So the way that gets in trouble, even if the person goes, "Listen, I'll pay the mortgage every month. It's in my contract. I'll definitely pay." Now that person finds another house they want to buy, and they go apply for a mortgage,
Not
and they
gonna
go,
happen.
"It's not going to happen." That's Tony, the bank industry. It's not going to happen because you already have your name on another loan. Well, I'm not paying for that loan. My ex is paying for that. It's on a divorce decree that says he's going to pay for that loan. They go, "We don't care. You have to renegotiate that loan." Now, both parties separately cannot get their own loan. So they're both stuck on this loan
Right.
document.
Yep.
And that's how you get screwed. Am I right, Tony?
Absolutely, because there's no way the bank's going to let 2 people off the hook.
Right.
No,
there you go.
no.
You got 2 of you.
You got
that's
2.
it.
So that ends up becoming a situation where a person has to refinance the house,
Correct.
and then they have to actually be able to qualify.
Yeah, if they don't qualify to
their own.
rehouse on their own, then you got a problem.
So you get a lot of people stuck in this situation where either one of them alone cannot qualify to purchase the house.
And a lot of people don't know that, where they can go 5 years and all of a sudden they're in another relationship somewhere else, and they go to apply to with their new mate. Let's buy a house, and then they find out, oops, guess what? I'm still attached to my ex.
Correct.
Which can bring a lot of tension to the new relationship.
That's why when you hire a realtor,
Well, when you hire a realtor, they're going to give you non-legal advice, but they'll tell you who to go to get
Correct.
legal advice, because we cannot give tax advice or legal advice.
we can
give
know,
guidance.
but we can know enough that when they go to qualify for the loan, they will find out, hey, are you on the loan?
We can ask the questions for sure.
Look, you would not believe how many people are unaware of this.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I have a solution for all of this.
What's your solution?
And the solution is if couples that are having trouble went out to more comedy shows and just laughed it up a little bit, they'd stay together and they wouldn't have a problem.
Where would they go?
Comedy
Well,
Heights.
they could come. They could come to Comedy Heights.
That's right.
They could
It's a
come to my
great
show.
place. That is an excellent venue. If you ever want to have a good time and have a very nice, intimate, relaxing, fun event, go to Comedy Heights.
The reason why we like Comedy Heights is because you can actually bring your kids. So it's not if you have kids and you don't know where to go, because every other comedy store you have to be 21 or up because they serve alcohol. Comedy Heights is where you can bring them and still watch the comedians. And I guess you'd have to sneak in the alcohol for your kids, right, Maria? Just kidding.
No.
Well, let's not talk about that. But Comedy Heights is San Diego's longest running independent comedy show, and it with more than 10 years of family-friendly shows. And we have comedians that are actually funny, which
It's true. You go to some places.
It's kind of important.
Also, you
and
guys
you can-
made it through the COVID
I mean,
time.
it's a lot of fun.
Hey, we're
did.
gonna move on to this section of the show called Fun Facts, where we're gonna share a fun fact with you, and then we're gonna talk about it a little bit and things you may not know. But I would like the entire listening audience, all three of you, I would like for you to
We doubled?
we tripled. I'd like for you to try and figure out this one thing. How long did it take to build the Empire State Building?
I actually know the answer to
Do
that.
you know the answer?
I know the answer.
I know the answer because I looked it up.
Oh,
But Maria, do you know the answer? Take a stab at it.
I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 10 years.
That's
It's amazing.
That's a good guess.
There was a...
What do you think,
I have
Tony?
no
A
idea.
year.
It took
took
1 year.
Actually, it took 401 days.
Yes.
I thought it was just a year.
It took 1 year and
Little over.
45 days.
Yeah,
a little
we can't
over a
build
year.
another terminal at the airport.
Can you
for 7.
imagine?
Was I right? Was it 401 days? I don't know why. I said
401 days? I don't know. 365 plus 45. What does that equal? Does anybody out there have a calculator?
That's close. That's close.
Yeah, it took 1 year and 45 days. But the sad thing is,
about
here in
400
San Diego, and in a lot of places, not just San Diego, if you wanted to put a room addition on, you might get
6
stuck.
months.
Six months for the permits.
Good luck.
You know?
5 months to get the door that's on backlog because all the crates are
So
still...
if you think about
I'm
it,
guessing when they built the Empire State Building, they weren't worried about the ferry shrimp.
Right. They
No,
were not worried
no.
about the ferry shrimp.
do you know how much it cost to build the Empire State Building back then? It was built in 1930, March 17th, 1930. What was the cost to build this Empire State Building?
I
All
see.
right, I'm going to go low this time since I overshot last time. I'm going to go with $5 million.
That is low. It was more than that.
I'm gonna say $50 million.
It was
I'm going to say 32 million.
$41 million.
Okay.
But in today's date, well, this is actually not in today's date, but if it was 2016, it's equivalent to about, well, in today's date, it's equivalent to about $700 million.
And do you understand?
10 billion today.
The thing is, you would think that being built in a year would not be the best constructed building, but the thing is standing strong. And
It's been hit by airplanes.
Yeah, it's been hit by
Was
an
it by a
airplane.
B-29 or something like that?
Oh, wow.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that fun fact.
I didn't either. What is a B-29?
It's like a bomber or something hit it. I'm going to look at
What
it.
about lightning? Does lightning hit it?
Of course, lightning hits them all the time. That's why they have a lightning rod on the top of it.
Okay.
So that was built.
You could barely build a regular house in did you say 401 days?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's true.
You're right,
It
Maria.
was a B-25 Mitchell bomber. Flew into the Empire State Building, resulting in deaths of 14 people, including 11 office workers and 3 crew.
Jeez, that's sad.
76 years ago.
Wow.
Wow. Does anybody know how many?
And that had nothing to do with Al Qaeda.
No.
No, couldn't blame them.
No.
The
that's
guy's
just-
name was Frankie
Yeah.
Powell. Hey, so does it? Okay, and this is. It used to be the tallest building. It's not the tallest building in the world. How many stories is the Empire State Building?
I don't know.
No idea. 100.
Yeah, 100 plus. Yeah.
130.
Yeah, it is. The Empire State Building is actually, I had this, it was 1,400 and something feet tall. It's unbelievable feet. I mean, think about it.
That's
1930,
1930.
they built a 100-story building in a year and 45 days.
We can't.
Now-
it's mind blowing.
It's unbelievable.
We can't get anywhere.
Well, that's
Yeah,
good.
what
Well, it's called
happened?
bureaucracy, right?
Like, what happened? Why
don't
can't we
know.
build? Why can't we build now? This is this is one of the reasons why homes are so expensive.
Right.
Is because we have a massive housing shortage, and trying to build homes.
Well,
that
it's
are
not the
affordable-
massive housing shortage. It's all the red tape you have to cut to get a piece of land, to get access, to get the permits, to get the okays. Most of them are denied. They usually wait till the plan's almost done. So these huge investors come into San Diego, they get a plot of land, they go through city council, they get all approved, and the last second they're going to say, well, we don't like that particular structure. We don't like that. They don't say structure. They say, we don't like that particular project.
Right.
And
Project.
it always gets shot down, and then those
Here's a
people-
project.
Project.
Frank, but this is something that's very important. If you want to build a granny flat or an auxiliary dwelling unit and you need to talk to somebody about how that process goes, you can call the Powell brothers at 858-922-7725, 858-922-7725. And the reason why is because my brother Frank Powell actually built one.
I built one because I needed to, number one. But number two is I really wanted to see the process because I've been involved with real estate for about 18 years and very involved in the political aspect of it. So I wanted to run it through a test to see whether or not I can actually build one and what the households were going to be and do basically research.
But it was pretty good, wasn't it?
Oh, I was very impressed. San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego did a
pulled
great
through.
job. You
Yeah,
know,
the city was
shout
right-
out to San Diego.
And mine
Yeah,
was actually
really good job.
How long did it take?
Mine only took about
6 months, huh?
6 to 8 months. It was stalled out. It was right when COVID hit, so everything was shut down. And you'd have to take your blueprints and just set them outside the county building. You didn't even hand them to somebody. You don't know where they ended up. And then they had to get approved. Then you get a call to go pick them up. And then you got to get your contractor that doesn't have the right people to work because everyone was scared of COVID, so no one was working. It was just one shutdown after the next where you couldn't get through it, but they still did it relatively fast. I was very impressed.
And
If we didn't have COVID, how long do you think it would have taken?
2 years.
I
No, I'm
would-
kidding.
a
Probably
year
would-
and 45 days.
No, I'm curious.
Well, I
if it had
think-
gone
no,
completely
I actually-
smooth without any issues.
I think it would have probably taken. It was almost like COVID wasn't there, so probably about the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there,
But I
and you
don't
can also,
understand, why can't we build anything? I mean, even if once you've got everything approved, it seems like it still takes a long time to get anything done.
it's a lot of red tape, you know.
What is the average cost if you're going to build a home? How much are permits and fees added to the price of that home?
I can tell you because I happen to know that. Anywhere, depending on the city you're working with, anywhere from 30 to 50% of the cost of building are permit fees.
Sometimes
Think about
it's 55%. We've heard studies that it's even more. So imagine if a contractor came to you and said, "Okay, I can do this project for $100,000," and your budget was $120,000, you'd be thinking like, "Hey, I have it covered." Then you start the process of going through the permits, and guess what? It's a $200,000 project, and then you come short, and that's what typically happens. So you got to make sure you know the process, the permit process, and how much those fees will be.
Yeah,
And those are online that you can go.
Yeah, and you can go to the city. They have already approved plans for granny flats.
For
So,
different things that have approved plans, especially granite
retaining
flats.
walls.
Yeah, exactly.
Granny flats.
They tell you how to build them. You just have to build them the code, and then you have to have the inspectors come there, and every so often they have to come and give you the okay. Then you do the next project. For example, when you're digging a fence line that's going to be a structure, a cement wall, first they look at first they actually look at your ditch. They'll come out and inspect the hole. And then you put down what's called the steel. So you lay down your steel rebar, and that steel rebar has to be tied a certain way, and it has to be positioned a certain way. Then they go, okay, your rebar has been done. Then you pour in the cement. Then the cement has to dry and cure. Then they come and they go, okay, the cement is fine. Then you put up the wall. So there's like 4 or 5 stages that you have to do, and every stage has a permit process. That's why.
It's good. You don't want a wall to fall.
No, you don't want a wall to fall. It's really good to do it, but that's why you have lag. That's why you have lag times. And if they come and they don't like the way your steel's set up, or you're an inch off or 4 inches off, they could tell you, tear it down, do it again, and then call me when you're ready.
Absolutely.
So that's what's good about
my God,
having...
my mother would be so good at that job.
Oh, yeah.
I had that happen.
You've got problems with your steel. I mean, she'd tell you right off the bat.
No, I had to
You're
rip
4
out a
inches
bathroom in the gym that I built, and because it didn't meet
The standards.
it was 1 inch shy of being able to fit a wheelchair be able to turn around inside the shower.
Geez, see? Encroachments.
Oh.
There you go. 1 inch encroachment. You know what wall is really strong and has been built it stayed up for a long time? The Great Wall of China. I wonder if they had people out there like checking out the...
Imagine...
Yes.
Did they even have rebar in it?
Well, they had a building inspector, but he was only on the job for like a day and a half.
Exactly. Hey, we all the time get phone calls, emails, and text messages asking questions. This segment of the show is called Ask the Expert. Ask the Experts. See, now you messed me up. Okay?
We're gonna, as of next week, we're gonna call it something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not gonna...
Go to my speech
Know
therapy
the pro.
class. Ask the Experts.
Dump the realtor.
Right.
Dump the realtor.
So this is one question we get all the time. All the time. I sold my house. I'm buying a house. At what point do I put the utilities in my name? Do I take the utilities out of my name? Who do I call? When do I call? How do I call? So Frank, if you're buying a house or you're selling a house, let's say you're the person selling the house, at what point do you remove those utilities out of your name?
I typically tell the people to do it right around the point of a close of escrow. So what you want to do is, if let's say you're closing on a Wednesday, you can call up your electrical company and say, after Wednesday, I'm not going to be paying for it. However, the other people should call and go, put it under my name, because that way you won't have a disruptive in your service.
Right.
Because if you don't do that and you cancel, let's say San Diego Gas and Electric, the other person has to apply and qualify for it. So there's
and they charge a fee.
They charge a fee, and there's going to be a time delay in when that electricity. If you do it over the phone and just talk to both sides and say, call today, and we'll call today and verify that, there's no break in the service. And there's typically no deposit needed for the new people. They could still ask for one, but typically there's not. So that way it transfers over and everyone's paying their fair share.
Well, unless it's somebody that's new to the area, right? Because they'll transfer, if they're transferring from, because if that person's moving in, they're already on file, say SDG&E, right?
Right.
Correct.
So if they're moving out of, or if they're just buying an additional piece of property, they're on
Correct.
File. But if they're new to the area.
Right. You may have to provide, sometimes they ask for deposits.
Right.
Either way, the way you do it is calling both sides and say, today we're going to cancel and today you need to call in.
So I'm going to tell you a story.
Or you can tell the person to call in before the close of escrow and just get it in your name. 1 day or 2 days before. The problem is sometimes escrow doesn't close. When you say it's going to close, it could be delayed for weeks.
Right.
So now you're paying for someone's electrical or gas, and you don't even live in the house. So it's a timing issue.
Well, I can tell you a story about where somebody really got screwed, okay?
Let's hear it.
Okay, here's the story. So a seller sold a house and they didn't remove the water out of their name. And they had a swimming pool.
No.
And the new owners, they drained the pool and they refilled it. And so the seller got a bill for $420 for the water bill. So they went to the new owners and they said, hey, I got this bill. I forgot to take it out of my name. Will you pay it? And you know what they said?
Pound sand.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Not a chance. So they got their $400 bill. They had to pay it. So you really want to make sure.
What was it? Why wouldn't they pay it?
They didn't want to pay $400.
I can tell you why.
These don't sound like nice people.
No. Actually, it was because the pool was semi-green, and they didn't want to drain it to clean it.
Right.
So they drained it to clean it, and then they filled it, which they should have been
Done before.
It should have been done before.
Right.
So that's where you get the conflicts, and that's when you have the realtor should talk to both sides to figure this kind of stuff out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's semi-related. When you're selling a house, and let's take for example, San Diego Gas and Electric just jumped their fees over 25%.
Oh my goodness, that was a lot. Yeah.
So what somebody may have budgeted for their gas and electric bill is now going to be 25% more than what they thought it was going to be.
Right.
So what do you do with the people when they're buying a home, when they're trying to figure out what they're going to buy? How do you tell them what it's going to cost?
Well, and that's a really good question. Sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the time, a person selling their house will turn over their electrical bill and go, look,
Right.
This is the average of what I spent. But if it's going to go up that much, people who have solar on their house, they always like to brag about it. Go, look, I spend $8 a year on my electricity bill. And that's a really good incentive for someone to buy a house because they know they're going to get a discount. But that might change now because apparently if you have solar, you still may be paying a little bit more in the future.
What's going to happen that they're finding out, all these big San Diego Gas and Electric and so forth, they're finding out that if you have people paying or not paying for solar, and more people are going that way. I think last year, 30% more people went to solar.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay? Where's that money that they're usually used to getting? How are they going to get that? So what they've done, they raised the price of natural gas. And the way they justify it, they're saying we don't want natural gas anymore. Natural gas is another fuel that we can do without. We want everything to be electrical, so we're going to raise that price. So it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. So and another thing they could do that we looked at years ago is doing a grid fee. Now, even though you get free solar...
What's a grid?
I'm going to tell you. Even though you get free solar, you get free electricity, all electrical services run on what's called a grid. It's a grid of service. It's like under the ground where all the wires are connecting, all the trenches they dig. They have to get that electricity to go through the wire to get to your house to turn on your lights. So they're going to say, in order to keep that grid going, we're going to charge you a fee. So even if you have solar, eventually you're going to have to pay something. That's what I think.
You want to hear something funny about that?
Everybody's got to pay.
It's happening right
Yeah.
now, and it's something that we
like
can't control, and it's something that people are very upset about, and we'll see what happens.
Did you know there's some communities that have taken out natural gas in all future building projects?
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, if you build if you have
New
a
house.
new construction site, no gas.
No gas.
And you know what? And Tony, you're Italian.
Really?
Yes, a little bit. Tony
You
Calabrese.
need to cook on fire.
You have to have fire. Isn't cooking on fire better or no?
Well, it depends, but yes, typically you'd want, if you're going to make Italian food, But I right now where I am, it's all electric.
Yeah, I have all electric.
Yeah, it's all electric.
Frank, do you have electric?
But
I have gas.
doesn't that have a lot to do with fossil fuels and phasing out
Yes.
fossil fuels?
Yes,
at least?
exactly. Yeah, it's the green. It's part of the green
So-
stuff. So yeah,
But
you
now
know,
the bill
Green
goes
Deal.
from, mine went from $235 to $507.
yeah,
That's
a lot.
more than 30. 25.
Wow.
Wow.
So when you buy a house,
So you don't have solar, Tony?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Not
we gotta
yet.
we get them solar.
Go get it.
Okay, I have a couple more. Ask the expert questions.
let's
So
go.
I got one. So a person purchased a house,
Yes.
and when the owners left, they left a satellite dish on their house.
Okay.
So who owns that, and what do you do with that dish typically? Like it's just sitting there.
Well, I
They
mean,
could use it if they hooked up to it, if they hooked up to the service, right?
That's what I would say.
yeah, you got to call the people. I mean, typically that's owned by the company that installed it in there. Now, as far as the two people, that's called an affixed item.
Right.
Which means it's bolted into your house.
So it goes with
So
the
it
property.
goes with the property.
Right.
But wait a minute, the company owns the dish or you own the dish?
Well, I think when
It
you
depends.
When you go digital, you could say we're going to put a dish up for you.
You'd be surprised how many people just leave the dishes up there, and I don't even. They say, "Well, I don't have whatever Direct TV or whatever service they're using," but the dish is still up there.
Yeah.
But the same thing is true. We also get this: what if you buy a house and they have an alarm system in there? You own the alarm system. What do you typically do with a house that has an alarm system in it? What can you do with it?
Well, it's the same thing.
Well, that's attached to the house too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So you can't take the alarm out.
But sometimes
Yeah, that would be weird.
you have to ask. These are part of the questions you ask.
Right.
Called the SPQ, Seller Property Questionnaire. Is the alarm system leased or owned?
Correct.
Same with the solar panels.
Right.
That's a good.
Frank, explain that solar panel thing, and it's the same with the alarm. Explain about the qualifications.
This is a huge deal that we're seeing. You're selling your house and you have solar. However, you bought it under a 0 down payment. We will put up your solar. You don't pay anything, and we'll reduce the price by 0. If you're paying $300 a month or more, let's get this done. Now you're 1 year into it. You're paying a small amount of lease on this system, and you try to sell your house. Well, you cannot sell your house because you're still attached to the lease of that solar. So the new buyers have to qualify to get that same loan, to get that same lease.
Right, they have to.
So
they
what
do
you
a credit track.
Or the only way out of that is by saying the sellers have to pay for the whole system before they sell the house, or the buyers have to pay for that system in order to get that house. So someone's paying for it. So that always typically
And that
stops
system's
a
much
sale
more, huh?
because you can go, you sell a house and you go, hey, by the way, there's an additional $30,000 that we didn't know about that you have to pay. So you want to make sure that you ask.
They're trying to pay off the
They're
solar.
still trying to pay off the
Well,
solar.
it's a lease, and oftentimes that buyout for the lease, because when the solar company's factoring in,
Everything.
interest and all that stuff, it may be, twice as much as if you just would have just bought the solar yourself and put it in.
Right, with interest.
But you know what's funny about that whole solar thing? All new construction in California is mandated to have solar.
Good.
So that's probably one of the reasons why, So you have
They're going to continually raise the price of gas. They want to discourage you of using gas.
Right.
Because of the Green New Deal, and they want to get rid of that. They want to get rid of propane. They want to get rid of.
What do you do if you have a gas heat? Well, a lot of heaters are gas.
You switch it out. You have to switch
Oh,
it
my
out, Mark.
goodness.
You got to come.
There's no way you'll be able to run a house on electricity if you don't have solar, because
man.
your electricity bill will skyrocket.
Skyrocket.
Be
My
like
gas and electric bill, when we ran the air conditioning last year, it was
Yeah.
$1,174. That's the last time we ran the air
If you live in Southern
Yeah.
California, it just
Wow.
makes sense to get solar. It
was
really
nuts.
does.
Yeah, you have to get
I mean, we
solar.
have
Well, I'm just
sun
curious. Say I wanted to get solar. Have you guys done shopping around and like the best way to get solar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Say if I'm
We have a
market.
few people that we
recommend a few companies. One of them did my house. I was up on the roof with them. I wanted to see how it was installed. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to see the different types of panelings that you can get. I wanted to know how it was all done. So absolutely, if you have any solar questions, basically what we do is we tell the person this. If you work with the Powell brothers, our relationship starts when the house closes.
Mm-hmm.
You call us if you need a new roof, if you need any plumbing issues, electrical, if you need a handyman, if you need gardening, if you need structural. We point you out at all the people that we've vetted for the last 18 years. So we have some good resources. So the people that are associated with the Powell brothers have been vetted to be the top of line.
Vet it. You got to vet a guy.
You got to vet.
vet them. Yeah,
I just like using that word.
But if you don't have solar on your house and your energy bill is, I would say, in the 3s or 4s, you probably might want to consider that.
Not probably. You're going to be priced out. So just go ahead and figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how's that for a good ending, huh?
Yeah.
Talk about solar. Something. The positive thing is we're in the sun. We're in Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Put solar on your house. Yeah. Let's get rid of this emissions. All this fossil fuels. It's time to move on. We got to move forward.
Yeah.
We have to do this as a society.
Solar. Remember when it was a good thing to lay out in the sun and get a suntan?
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
You'd bake with
You'd actually put
not
panels
olive
on.
oil, but
How about the people in Florida?
Depends on the
olive oil.
neighborhood.
Exactly.
I remember
I can't
baby
even
oil,
imagine.
olive oil.
Olive
Like if you
oil,
go back to when
avocado oil.
we were going to the beach, if you think about what we did, it's like exactly the opposite of what any dermatologist would say. We pack oil all over ourselves.
Or rub it on each other.
And in fact,
70s.
and then take a sheet of metal and hold it in front of your face so you can get even more sun.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a
Hand
surprise we're
lights.
even walking around
Of course,
now.
you guys were taking the siding off of houses to do that, so that was, you had the wrong sheet of metal.
Exactly. No wonder they weren't reflective.
And then you're like, hey, this is a cool house. I wonder what it'd be like to have a business
Things have
selling
changed.
houses. And that's how you got into real estate.
So winding down, we want to make sure that if you want to see a really good comedy show, go to Comedy Heights with Maria. And if you want to get even sponsors to be on your show, give a speech, get a comedian in, you call Tony Calabrese, TonyCalabrese.com. If you're interested in real estate, you call the Powell Brothers, PowellBrothersRealty.com.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for
Diego.
tuning in. We'll see you next time
Thanks,
for another
Frank.
show.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.